Here's Johnny.
Okay, guys, welcome to the Budget Guitar Show, and here we have with us today the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Glen Matlock.
Oh, how you doing, Johnny? All right?
Yeah,
good to speak to you again.
Not too bad. Thanks for coming on. Now, I want to go back to where things first started. How did music start for you? And what's the story behind your first guitar, which I believe is in the Hard Rock Cafe in London?
Oh, yeah, it is, yeah. I got it for Christmas from my mum and dad, and they probably got it on the knock from a shop. It's funny, they probably got it on the knock from a music shop, which was in Holston, or part of Holston, up the Hour Road. The area is actually called Craven Park. But that was next door to a cinema where I saw my first X movie, but it was also, it shut down, and then that's where we rehearsed for the Anarchy tour. So it was only about 2 doors along.
Oh, right, yeah, because that was the Roxy, wasn't it, at Harlesden? Yeah,
for a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was the Odeon, I think, the Odeon Harlesden.
Oh,
and
right,
the guitar, I think it was called a Delmont, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And it had the Immortal Legend inside the sound. It's just an acoustic, still strong acoustic, and inside the sound hole it had the legend. It says guaranteed not to split.
And did it ever split?
It never split, no. The thing is, I tried to learn to play it, and the fingers out. I mean, I was about 10 or 11 then, you know, and I think the guitar probably cost sort of like £7 and 12 shillings or something like that. You know, it was all right, but the action was dreadful. And but because I couldn't learn to play it, my dad worked at Rolls Royce at the time, and he brought back a load of veneer that they use in Rolls Royces. Yeah. So instead of learning to play it, I covered it in walnut veneer from Rolls Royce. Right, you know, something to do. Yeah. And to put it on you, I mean, I couldn't believe it as a young kid, right? I'd be on the gas stove for maybe I'm about 11 and a half by then. The gas stove, my dad brought back all these little tiny balls, which is fish glue, which they use at Rolls Royce, and you've got to boil it up in a saucepan. Right. Yeah, at that age, you know, and I'm smoothing it all on and trying to do it as carefully as possible. It came out all lumpy, and so that was on that for a bit. And then I took it all off and rubbed it down and just stained it, the top. Yeah. And that looked dreadful. And then I thought, oh, I've seen guitars when they got all fancy bits around the you know, the sound hole. Oh, yeah. So I drew it in by hand in biro. Wow. But that's what it looks like now in the Hard Rock. But I went down there. It's at the Hard Rock in London. There's the Hard Rock in London, or the original one in Piccadilly. And it's on the corner, and on the next corner is an old bank, which they've turned into their merch store. And downstairs, they got a vault. I don't know if you've ever been down there. It's quite fantastic. They got a vault, and you go in, and it was the actual vault where they kept the money, right? I took my kids down when they were smaller. Yeah. And I go in there, and they got like Jimi Hendrix's Flying V or something, Jimmy Page's something over, John Entwistle's bass, Les Paul's second Les Paul, all arranged around this safe that looks like it's had the doors blown off. And in the safe, in private, is the guitar my mum and dad bought me. And I was chatting to I didn't sell it I sold it to some bloke years ago to pay the mortgage, right? Yeah. Then it's ended up there. But I was chatting to the girl who shows people around. She said, my guitar is the most popular thing with the young kids because it's something they can identify with, you know, so I was quite proud of that. Yeah. Anyway, I got it out and tried to play it. It was dreadful. No wonder we ended up with punk rock.
So I was going to say, I read somewhere that I think it's on the actual plaque to it that says you wrote the riffs for Anarchy in the UK on that.
Yeah, I probably knocked it around. You know, I had a couple of guitars back then, but you when you got an idea, you just pick up the one that's closest to hand, you know.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, so do you remember your first bass guitar? Because I seem to remember you describing it once as one that had the cord sort of welded into it. You couldn't.
Yeah, it was hardwired. It was like a copy of. I didn't know at the time, but looking back, it was a copy of an Epiphone Rivoli. So it was like a semi-acoustic bass. I don't know if you've seen the Clash's London Calling video, and Paul Simon was playing an Epiphone Rivoli bass. That was my one. I sold it to him.
Oh, right.
But the first bass I had was a copy of that, although the one he uses is like a tobacco sunburst, and the one I had was like a red sunburst. But the lead, there wasn't a jack socket. It was wired into the guitar, and I didn't have a case. And to take it anyway, you have to wind the lead round the neck and put it in a laundry bag and get on number 18 bus to go and play with your mates up at Armstrong.
Fair play.
Funny. And I had another bass that was that I had with my Pistol sort of audition with Steve, Paul and Wally, and it was like a lilac coloured sort of like a Fender Mustang kind of thing, with a go faster stripe on it that somebody had put on it. It looked kind of cool, but I think looking back, it was actually just a Fender Stratocaster, or a cheap, not a real one, you know, a pretend one, that somebody had taken two of the strings off and just put full bass.
Well, there you go. That's punk rock in itself.
It kind of was, yeah. But when I went to the audition and played that one, Wally said to me, it was a bit like in what's it, Crocodile Dundee. You know the blokes when they pull the knives out on him, and they go, you know, they pull a knife out and he pulls out an even bigger knife. He goes, that's not a knife, that's right. But Wally said to me after, I said, well, you got the gig, but you can't play that. That's not a bass. I said, what's a bass then? And then from under his bed, he pulled out Fender Precision. I said, where'd you get that? They said, don't ask. So I didn't.
Yeah. Was that the one that's was like a natural finish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but you know what? That I preferred the purple one because that one was a plank, but it was Steve, so I never kept hold of that.
And I was just going to ask, because the released 45, or was it 45 or 46 years ago today, Anarchy in the UK, and in the promo you're using the Rickenbacker 4001, which is currently on show up in Liverpool, and I went there and took some photos.
How long is it still there? I want to know that it's still there, because I'm going up to Liverpool tomorrow. Actually, I've got a show there somewhere in Liverpool. I forget the name of the place. Zanzibar.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll go see it. I put it there because to insure guitars for a bloke like me costs a blinking fortune.
Yeah.
And it's there, so they pay for the insurance. And it was in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. I lent it to them for a couple of years, but I kind of wanted it back.
Yeah.
Right. But that was my bass. That was my first proper bass, and I got that out of the advance from EMI.
Yeah, and because I went up there and I saw it and took a load of photos of it, and they've got the big the sort of punk exhibit, and they've got yourself on video talking and things like that. So if anybody who's watching this wants to go up and see it, it is worth seeing. It's the British Music Experience in Liverpool. But why did you sort of swap or stop playing that bass in favour of the P basses? Because I believe in the promo you've got that, and I believe you were using it at the Notre Dame Hall in November '76. But then we never really saw it again.
Why did I just found them a bit fiddly, to be honest. And do you know what's really good about them is that it's got a stereo output on it. Yeah. And what I used to do when nobody was around, you put a split stereo lead into two monos, and I used to put one through my bass amp, and I used to plug one into Steve's Fender Twin that had tremolo on it, and whack the tremolo right up, and it sounds fantastic for about 5 minutes, and then you get fed up with it, and everybody upstairs goes, "Shut up." So I never really sort of saw myself as a Chris Squire kind of thing, you know. I think I think, you know, even I know people like him, Jean-Jacques Brunel, and he's a good thing. It's a bit of a gimmick kind of sound, you know.
Yeah.
To me, I think basses should sound like bass. You know, if I'm in the studio and I'm playing bass, or I don't do that so much these days, but playing bass, the engineer says, "What do you want it to sound like?" I say, "Well, turn the remote out."
Yeah.
You know, I want it to sound like a bass.
Yeah, I understand.
You know, nice and warm, rounded sound, which you get from a precision, and you get from precision by plugging it in, turning the volume right up, and turning the treble right up. Sounds like James Jameson.
Yeah.
With the Rickenbacker, it'll take you half an hour to get it to sound like a Fender. You know?
Yes. Yeah. Understandably, yeah.
Well, they're good. You know, it all depends what you like. You know?
Yeah. I mean,
but the other thing, you know, if you tour a lot and you do like odd gigs with people, like, I mean, a few years back, I did that LAMF thing, you know, Waterloo and Ness and Clembert, toured across the States. I'd been doing some shows in Australia and in New Zealand. In fact, I came back feeling like Sir Francis Drake, because although I've been to lots of places around the world, I'd never gone all the way around the world in one go. Yeah. But because I was playing guitar on the thing, well, acoustic, I was playing acoustic with a pickup band in Australia, and I did a couple of acoustic shows. You can't bring all your guitars with you. It's just not cost effective, and it's awkward, you know, it's just you traveling. So I said, "Well, you'll have to hire us a big steel or borrow a Precision," and they got me one, and you pick it up, and it just feels like your one. Yeah, you know, that's the thing with it, you know.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I mean, you can get a few planks, but normally they're pretty good.
Yeah. Well, obviously, with your band's music-wise, the Pistol story has been told everywhere. And
not off.
Yeah, everyone and his dog knows about it. So I want to just sort of gloss over that. But before I move on, what are your feelings on the recent events in the Pistols camp? And is it safe to say that now, apart from these kind of releases, which are fantastic, and I urge everybody to go out and get this box set, do you think that the Pistols now have been put to bed?
Kind of looks like it, doesn't it, really? But, you know, that was a good James Bond movie title when Sean Connery came back. You know, never say never again.
Yeah.
But I'm not holding my breath.
No.
You know, the thing what people don't realise with the Pistols is everybody in the band, in their own ways, has got up to quite a lot of their own stuff, you know, in the intervening years. And it, you know, all with varying degrees of success, but I'm sure they're all individually into what they're doing, whether it's John or Steve doing his DJ thing and me doing my songwriting and solo shows and a bit of this, that and the other, and Paul were professionals and playing with them and Colin. You know, we're kind of into that.
Yeah.
But as soon as the Pistols comes up, no matter how far you've got with what you're trying to do, it goes boom. And when you do the Pistols thing, maybe a nice little learner and puts a smile on a few people's face, you got to start from scratch again. Yeah. With your own thing. And, you know, people don't see that. And it's, you know, I know that what I'm doing now, I'm not going to be filling out Wembley next year on the strength of that, but I don't really care, really, you know. I'd always like a few more people to come to the shows and this, that, and the other. I get to play with some fantastic people. You know, I must be reasonably good because, you know, my last album, I've got Slim Jim Phantom on drums, Earl Slick on guitar, Jim Lowe produces all the stereophonic stuff on that. New album, I've got a new album in the can. I've just signed a deal on it a couple of weeks back. That's going to be out hopefully early in the new year. I've got Earl on that. Chris Musto plays drums on it. I've got Norman Watt plays bass. Clem Burke plays on a couple of tracks. I've even got Hot Eye plays on the track. You know, the bloke who wrote the Kill Bill theme tune? Yeah. You know, I mean, they're friends and I do something for them as well, but I feel privileged that I must be reasonably good because those people are good and they wouldn't play with me if they thought I was trite.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to come to all of that era very shortly.
might seem crazy what I'm gonna say. Sunshine, she's here, we can take a break. Feel like a hot air balloon that could drift to space. Say it in the air like I don't care, by the way. Because clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you think that happiness is the truth. Clap along if you know what happiness means to you. Clap along if you think that's what you want to do. Hey, come back, you talking this and that. Ooh, I see it. Give me all you got and don't hold it back. You know, I think I should warn you that'll be just fine. So the key to you is, hey, don't waste your time. Because clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you think that happiness is the truth. Clap along if you know what happiness means to you. But clap along if you think that's what you wanna do. Ain't gonna bring me down. 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 Because clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you think that happiness is the truth. Clap along if you know what happiness means to you. Clap along if you think that's what you wanna do. Ain't gonna bring me down. 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 Ain't gonna bring me down.
Then I personally think, as a fan of that said band, that I don't really want to see another reunion. You know, I would prefer it.
Well, Johnny, if you don't want to see it, maybe that's more reason we should do it, because whatever the Pistols it's to wind people up.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather go into, you know, and into what you guys are doing now, because, you know, it's happened, and once you reunite again, then one person is going to annoy another member of the band, and we're going to be back to the square one where everything is now, you know. So I would rather it didn't happen, and I've got the memories of it, you know, and it was fantastic. Yeah. So then you went on, of course, you began the Rich Kids after the Pistols. How easy was it to get that band together in the wake of the Pistols, and how did you acquire that Gibson EB0 bass that you used during that time?
Oh, okay. The bass.
Those people who don't know, by the way, there's the.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's, I don't know if people realise that picture is Steve New in the little photograph on the cover.
I can see that. There you go.
Yeah. How did I get? Well, I actually started getting the Rich Kids together very loosely before I'd left the Pistols. You know, it was all falling apart. Steve knew at one stage, I mean, I'm sure you read my book, but in my book, at one stage, before we started playing, Paul thought we should have another guitarist because he didn't think Steve was good enough at that stage. And so we had auditions for another guitarist. And one of the people came down with their school teacher, who he was dating and as your father in with, who was lovely, Rose, was Steve New. And I'd met him from that, you know, and then we'd done the Pistols thing. I hadn't seen him for ages. And then I did an interview for Sounds with Pete Silverton, who's a mate of mine, and they announced that I was getting something together. And there was a pub that I used to drink in down the King's Road called the Roebuck. It's not there anymore. And I went in there, and I hadn't been in there about 2 years. I was sitting there having a pint, and Steve New come in looking for me. He'd seen the thing in the paper. Yeah. And we got on. Then he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm trying to get a band together." He went, "Oh," I said, "Come on in, me and you, right?" And then I went out to another gig. I think it was maybe seeing Rock Pile or somebody like that at Nashville. And this bloke come up to me, started chatting, telling me how he was a great drummer, and you know, he'd been trying out with the early Clash who hadn't quite got together. Then he knew Mick Jones and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. All right, you're the drummer. And he said, no, I'm a really good drummer. I said, no, you're the drummer. And he went, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, and I knew I said, you're in, shut up. You're in the band, right? Knowing full well if he was no good. I'd heard him play by them, but knowing full well if he was no good, he wouldn't be the drummer. But then I introduced him to Steve. And the funny thing was, he knew Steve, Rusty. This is Rusty Egan, right? And Rusty had worked as a like a runner for WEA Records, and then left. And Steve took his job.
Oh,
so they knew each other. So we had the band. But then, what do I do next? You know, then I tried out loads and loads of singers, and everybody wanted to sound like Johnny Rotten. The last thing I wanted at that stage was somebody wanting to sound like John. And I tried out everybody in London I could think of. And then I saw a record in a record store, Slick, who'd been and gone by them. Mm-hmm. Then I sort of was aware of me, and I thought he had something going for him. So anyway, I got my management to get in contact with him, and he wasn't really doing anything then. He was trying to be a little bit more punky. The guys from Slick had formed a band called PBC2, I think it was, and I kind of broke that band up really, but invited Mitch to come down, and he came down and had a play, and he wasn't sure, and it was a bit of a turn. Anyway, he ended up in the band. That was it. Yeah. But around about that time, I bought. You're talking about the guitar. I bought a Dan Armstrong slider pickup. You had a sliding pickup. Yeah. Beautiful guitar. I had it resprayed cherry red. It was kind of good, and I used that for a bit. But then I saw in a shop the Gibson you was talking about. Yeah. And I realised that Dan Armstrong, with the shape of it, was a bit of a copy of the Gibson EBO, I think it was. Yeah, that's right. And, I had a little sports car, a Sunbeam Alpine by them, and the Dan Armstrong wouldn't fit in the boot. But guess what? The Gibson, because it was short scale, did, and that's the reason I bought it, because if it right. Yeah, so was it a blue Sunbeam Alpine that you had at the time? Yeah. But fantastic. And then there was a funny story around this time, because you had the Vicious White Kids. Yeah, that was a bit later on. That was 78, I think. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, and there was a funny story when you were rehearsing with for that, and between Sid Vicious and a Fender Mustang bass that some of my viewers won't know. I just wonder if you could tell us that story. Well, we walked into the rehearsal room. I think it was John Henry's up in sort of round the back of Camden. We walked in there, and there was nothing in the thing apart from a bass guitar. And Sid says, "I'm having that." And I'm going, "Sid, they're going to know it's how we've taken it, or you've taken it, right?" You go, "No, I'm going to have that for my honey," which was Nancy. Yeah. And I thought, well, and he was adamant. I'm going, "Oh, blimey." I said, "Look, it's nothing to do with me. here's the keys to my car. It wasn't something out, and then I said, "Go on, just stick it in the boot."
Yeah.
But the thing was, to put it in the boot, he had to walk past all the portal cabin officers they got holding the space. Everybody saw him do it, right? And they thought it was kind of funny and run with it. And we rehearsed. We only had about a day and a half rehearsal, did that. And then we had a gig. It was all real last minute, and we did that thing at Electric Ballroom. And when we went, we had like rehearsed in the morning, and then we wanted to take our gear to go to the Electric Ballroom in Canberra. They said, "Oh yeah, pay the bill. Oh, by the way, can we have the bass back?" And Sid's going, "What bass?" He said, "The bass you took from the rehearsal room that was in there that day." And they go, "I never took it." And like,
yeah.
Anyway, they wouldn't let us take our gear to go and do the gig until he brought the bass back. So he called up Nancy or something, sent it over in a cab, and I'm not kidding you, I said, "Look," to the guys, I said, "Look, it's coming back. Can we just at least load up the van so when it arrives, we can drive over?" All right. So that's what we did. And the cab turned up in a black plastic beam liner, and the bloke got it out. And meanwhile, Nancy had painted it matte black with like Dulux paint without even taking the strings off. And it was still wet, and I gave it to the guy, and he just drove off, and it was like, "Oh man."
Oh, I bet that was the guy's face must have been an absolute picture when that came out of the.
I think it was John Henry himself, you know. He's quite a big bloke. I was like, "Come, let's
go." Fair play. And then throughout the 80s, I think it's safe to say you had a very busy period because you were still playing with Iggy Pop as you had done in the 70s. You'd done Johnny Thunder.
No, I only played with Iggy. I played 79. I played, and then I didn't play with him in the 80s. I got approached. The guy who was the head of the record company at Arista, Charles Levison, right? He said to me, "What are you doing?" This is when I'm playing with Iggy. I said, "I'm playing with Iggy." And he said, "Yeah, but what are you doing?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, if you came up with something, I'd be more than interested in signing it." Like, "Ooh." And I started getting this thing together, the Spectres, with Danny Casto.
Yeah.
You know, and we was going to sign Arista, we didn't. And to be honest, as much as I love playing with Iggy in certain ways, you know, and touring the world, and he wanted me to continue playing, I always liked doing one thing properly at a time. But also, Iggy, at that stage, was getting his willy out every night. But to get your willy out on stage, you have to turn your back on the audience and prepare to get your willy out. And he always did it in front of me, and I got fed up with seeing his old man, which isn't that impressive.
Yeah.
So there was quite a few things going on there, you know.
Yeah.
But playing with Iggy was great. I wish, to be honest, I wish I'd done more, you know.
You played with Johnny Thunders, and then there was bands like Hot Club, obviously the Spectres, as you mentioned, the London Cowboys. And I think two of my favourite tracks that you were involved in at that time, there's Let's Get Crazy, the London Cowboys, and It Ain't Me Girl by Hot Club.
You like that one? Okay.
Yeah, I really do like that. And I thought, have you ever thought of like revisiting some of those songs, which I think they're ripe for reevaluation now?
Maybe. I mean, I think one of the things I'm talking to the record company about is maybe doing a new kind of revisiting best of thing. So maybe some of those songs might, you know, different people I play with. But we're sort of just beginning to talk about that. The one I like from Hot Club, though, is that's Clark Datcher and It Ain't Me Girl. And Clark Datcher ended up in Johnny H. Jazz, and he wrote that #1 across America. Yeah. But I prefer the single before them, which is The Dirt That She Walks In, that Steve Allen sings them. That's kind of...
Yeah, released on Rack Records, I believe. Yeah,
we had a little deal with Rack.
You know, and of course...
Could have been good, wasn't. But you know, there you go.
It was a great song, and of course Mickey Most, obviously he had his hand in a few Pistol things very early on with the Chris Spedding, the EMI sort of period, just doing some demos.
Well, I mean, we knew Chris Spedding, who came in the studio with us. I wasn't quite, but none of us was quite aware of who paid for it, and I probably wasn't Malcolm. But I think looking back, it might have been Mickey Most. I think Chris Spedding was like Mickey Most, right-hand man, session guitarist at the time. Probably said, I found this band. In fact, Calvin, his son, he was in the drummer in Hot Club. He told me that he, you know, he was younger than us, but he was hip to the Pistols then, and he was mates with presumably almost like Uncle Chris Spedding, you know.
Yeah.
And Calvin told me that he told his dad that he should sign us, and his dad didn't quite get it. And he said, look, Dad, if you sign the Sex Pistols, I'll wash the car on a Sunday afternoon.
And he didn't end up washing the car.
Yeah.
And of course, then in the 90s, sort of.
Oh, can I just tell you a real funny story? I think when we was doing the Hot Club thing, Mickey Most got nicked for drinking and driving.
Right.
But being a Flash Harry, he bought an American limo with a driver to drive him around. We did some photo session. We were supposed to be coming out the sea somewhere, you know, and it all looking a bit tropical, you know, because it's getting into the 80s and, you know, Club Tropicana, maybe before then. So he said, I'll take the pictures. And we said, any good? And he said, yeah, I went to art school and all that. So we met him outside Rack, and where are we going to go? And he said, you'll see. So where do we go? Fucking Jaywick Sands near Clapton, right? And we're supposed to be coming. It was freezing. So we're driving down there, and I said, Mickey, you surprised me. I thought you'd have a car phone in here. And he went, no, I wouldn't like it. I said, but if you did have a car phone, I said, what's, and somebody called you up, the first call, what would you say? And quick as we flash, he said, sorry, I can't speak now, I'm on the other line.
Oh, God. Oh, I don't know. other line in a bloody car with a car phone.
Yeah. You got to start as you mean to go on, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and then sort of in the 90s, you began a sort of renaissance period, I would call it, starting with the Mavericks and that excellent Hard Work album. That you guys.
You like that much? Good, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
You're the only person who's ever said that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that album, and that was when I first ever saw you live. I saw you playing with them. Fantastic band, of course, with Paul Simon, not the Paul Simon, but the other Paul Simon. And yeah, that morphed then into the Philistines.
Oh yeah, you know why we called ourselves the Philistines?
Go on.
Because I had a bloke looking after this manager, this guy Ford, who used to work with Derek Jarman. And back then, I don't know how true it was, but if you had an idea or something, you could write the idea, supposedly, put in an envelope and send it to yourself, you know, in the date stamp. And it's sort of some kind of cheap copyright. But anyway, he left managing us and he gave me all these things, right? And in the meantime, there was a band from the States came over and had a big hit called the Mavericks, right? American sort of country and western band. I thought, I'm not having that, we're the American Bricks. And I'm going through all these things that this guy had given me, but they was envelope. I didn't know what it was, so I opened them all up, and then I found the thing, but I'd already opened the envelope.
Oh, and that's why it had to become something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God. And then, of course, 1995, you have the Who's He Think He Is When He's at Home album. So how did this come out with Creation?
Yeah, I'd been doing some recording, and I actually went, I was mates with Tony Barber, who was in the Buzzcocks for a bit. I went again to Holsden, to the main fiddler, to see the band, The Creation, were playing. And Alan McGee was there, and he introduced me, and he said, oh, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm doing this recording. And he went, oh, let's put it out. So that's what we did, you know. And but I recorded that in 95, and it was supposed to come out in 95. I'd also been to LA and stayed with Calvin and kind of hooked up with Steve. And just said I met John again after all that time. Then we kind of just didn't really think much, and I wanted to get my album out. But by the very end of 95, early 96, the Pistols tour come up.
Yeah.
Right. And my album was slow in coming out, and I told Alan, and then they hanging on. They thought it was a good idea to put it out in time with the Pistols tour. I didn't, because it made it look like I was trying to cash in.
Yeah.
And it didn't really do a lot, and because I couldn't promote it. But it was actually done. Like it was done long before.
Yeah.
You know, Pistols thing. Just the way things. It's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
That's
no,
it.
but I think there's some good songs on it. You know,
there is. Yeah, there's some absolutely fantastic. Like, Story of Your Life, I think, is one of my favourites off that.
okay.
My Man.
Oh, that's got Durwood on it. That one. Durwood Andrews plays on it.
But then, of course, you've gone on sort of since then. You brought a few out. There was the On Something album, which again, I think is a fantastic album. Open Mind, which is another good one. Born Running, but one album that I think that I really like is the Rattle Your Cage.
Oh, well, that's just sort of the best of one anyway, you know. And then some of the stuff I sort of found my singing a bit better. I think I was pitching the keys a bit better, and I re-recorded a couple of things.
Yeah. And that's why I think that the stuff on there that because they've been re-recorded with the sound that you had at the time of the recording, I think it just makes it a real perfect sort of complete rounded album, and I really do love that one.
All right.
Seems like today's so
And then, of course, lately you've been doing things like the Sexy Beast single with Earl Slick. And you've got this fantastic, your latest album, Good to Go, which this has had such brilliant reviews since it came out. And I advise everybody to go out and check this out. So how did this one sort of come about? And the obviously with the people that you've got on there, Chris Spedding, Earl Slick, Neil X. So how did that one come about?
And don't forget Slim Jim as well, who's integral to the story. Well, I've been doing loads of acoustic shows. I mean, I've been doing my acoustic show, which I'm currently on tour with, around the world for a long time, you know, and I've done some quite reasonable big deal things, you know. I had like kind of 3,000 people schlepped across, what's the big fest? Glastonbury, come and see me in acoustic thing. Everybody singing along with my acoustic guitar. Montreux Jazz Festival. Yeah, dig this, right? Montreux Jazz Festival on the shore of the lake where they wrote Smoke on the Water about. Yeah. I thought, well, I'm there for a couple of nights. Who can I go and see? Who do I fancy seeing? Nobody really. Oh, Neil Young's playing. I thought, oh, great, I'm going to see Neil Young. Couldn't. He played the same time as me, right? Oh, you know, of course, a bigger place, and I'm playing sort of a room that's got about 800 people in it. Anyway, I do my show, and what they did, they turned the house. There was some band on, not many people, me, almost a full house, turned the house, another band on, half full. But when they turned the house, you had to get out quicker. You had to turn the house, man, and sling everybody out, you know, and a new lot of people coming. There was a couple of sort of slightly older than me blokes wanting some things signed, you know, side of the stage. So I signed them for them. I said, oh, you know, you're having a good festival. Have you seen anybody here that you like? And they said, yeah, we went to see Neil Young. And I said, well, you couldn't have done because he was playing the same time as me. They said, no, we go and see 2 songs and then we prefer to come and see you.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool, you know. So I've been doing that a lot, you know, and I did that Dead Man Walking thing, which was and the thing is, I'm just trying to get across the fact that, yeah, I can play bass and I'm not bad at it. And I like playing bass when somebody else is singing. But I'm a songwriter, you know, I don't think anybody can, I might not be the great Caruso in a voice, but I get by. Yeah. But nobody's going to mean the lyrics as much as the bloke who actually wrote them, you know, so it's kind of honest. Yeah. But so I've been doing this acoustic show all around the world for a long time. But then I wanted to play with a band for an album. I'd not long gone to see Bob Dylan as a birthday present from my friend Patty Paladin, who's a big Dylan fan, and I thought he was a load of old tosh. Yeah. You know, you couldn't understand the words, you couldn't make out what song he was playing. So I concentrated on the band, and the band he had was fantastic because not only were they good, they never knew what song he was going to play next, so they had to filter in. And it's like Tony Garnier on bass and Charlie Sexton. I can't remember who the drummer was, but he spent most of the time playing brushes on things. Dylan didn't even play guitar, which maybe it's just as well. I think he's got something wrong with his hand. Played the piano, and he wore this suit that made him look like a fucking deck chair attendant. Right. But anyway, around that time, I'm thinking of doing an album. I thought maybe I can do sort of my slightly more punk version of this semi-skiffle kind of sound. You know, it went bam. It was like more cute and cool. And I thought, who do I know? And I thought, oh, Slim Jim. He's only got half a drum kit as a mate. So I said, look, I'm thinking of doing an album. I've got a bit of money to go and do it. Would you do it? And he said, yeah, I'd love to. And I said, you got any ideas on a guitarist? And he straight as away, he said about Earl Slick. Now, I'd done something with Earl Slick in the States the year and a half before that with Clem Burke. I didn't know he knew Earl, but they'd had a band together. So he asked Earl. I got on with Earl back then. That's it. And we booked a studio in Rhinebeck, upstate New York, and went in and put most of the album down, and all the loud bits. And then I came back and did the vocals at home with Jim Lowe. And well, in fact, Jim came. We did it in 2 slices. We did like a week, and then we did another 10 days. He came over to the States, and then we came back because it's cheaper to just do the vocals around his house, and then sent it back to this guy Mario McNulty, who Earl had worked with doing Bowie's last album, who mixed it in New York. you know, because these days you can just send files anywhere.
Yeah.
And
Excellent.
that's how it all came about, really. But, you know, so it's a bit more of a skiffly album. I like playing with Slim Jim on that because, you know, he's got that rockabilly swing.
Yeah.
You know, Sexy Beast, you know, it's sort of, it's not boom, clap, but it's boom, clap, you know, it's got a sort of 12/8 swing to it kind of thing. That's how it came about, really, you know.
No, absolutely, because I saw you at a Rebellion Festival when you had that lineup of the band, and the thing that got me is, you know, as well as enjoying all the other stuff, but then all of a sudden you broke out into Pretty Vacant and God Save the Queen, but with that sound of that band, and I just love the fact, particularly with God Save the Queen, how Earl Slick's guitar sort of turned it into a 50s kind of, you know, a proper 50s sound rather than a borrowed from the 50s sound.
Yeah, okay.
And it just went straight, and that could have come out.
Well, do you know what I'm going to say about that? Because Earl's a little bit older than me, getting on a bit now, where I am and all. But it probably sounds more 50s due to him because he knows more about the 50s than I do because he lived it.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. I've spoken to him a couple of times at different things, and yeah, but it was nice to hear a fresh perspective from, you know, one of the guys that wrote it on a song that is so iconic. And
well, that's the thing, you know. I mean, I don't really look forward to doing Pistol songs. I don't mind. I wouldn't mind doing them with the Sex Pistols because the Sex Pistols is the Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
But I know if I'd gone to see David Bowie and he didn't play Heroes, I would have gone home disappointed, right? Yeah. So there's certain things you have to do, but it annoys me when people put up YouTube videos of things without asking you, and you're not sure if the sound recording's good or the performance was that great that night. But anyway, that's the way of the world, and that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
And people think I only do acoustic versions of Sex Pistols songs. I don't. But what I do is do those couple of songs for the people who are there at the time. You know, I know full well if I'm playing in South America, New Zealand, Korea, or Japan, those people are never going to see a Sex Pistol do a Sex Pistol song.
Yeah.
So I do it for them. When then it goes out on the thing, that's it. But if I'm doing it with a band, and the band aren't the Sex Pistols, it's not fair on the people to think, oh, it's got to sound like the Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
Because they're not the Sex Pistols, and it's not fair on the guys who are playing it, who aren't the Sex Pistols, who don't play like that or even want to play like that.
Yeah.
So you do a version of it, and by doing a version of it, you know, not big deal, we'll change this deliberately, but it's going to have a different feel.
Yeah.
And it makes it a bit fresher, you know, and like we do Pretty Bacon, we stretch it out at the end, and, you know, and then even when I do it now with Chris Musto playing drums, I mean, we stretch it right out at the end, you know, and get the groove going. It's a bit like Captain Beefheart, you know.
Yeah, because I think
I like that. That's fine, and it keeps my interest going in it, you know, as well.
That's it. I think that goes back to, again, the Rich Kids when you did Pretty Vacant in that, because the one version that I remember hearing really well was you stretched out the beginning and almost went through the whole first verse before you come in with the lead vocal, and that worked. That was a fantastic version.
It's probably because I forgot.
Well, you know, it was the time. So let me see. You've had a couple of rare guitars and basses and an amp nicked, didn't you? Not too long ago. Did you ever get them back? And what gear is your go-to gear these days?
Well, I'm playing guitar now. Got a couple of nice acoustics. I've got a Gibson J45 and a Hummingbird. The J45 sounds better, but the Hummingbird looks better. So it's a bit of a toss-up, really.
Yeah.
And normally I play which one that I've been asked to change the strings on beforehand, you know. I don't mind changing one set of strings before a gig, but two, that's ridiculous, you know. Yeah. But I just keep one as a spare in case I break a string. And the thing is, if you haven't got a spare, you will break a string. If you've got a spare, you won't.
Yeah.
It's something like, you know.
Yeah.
So that's that. But and then when I was playing with Earl, and I like playing acoustic in a band because my approach to acoustic guitar playing in a band is like David Bowie and the Spiders from Mars. All the rhythm guitar is him playing acoustic. You know, Ronson's doing all the clever bits, and it gives it a swing. You know, it's kind of got a. You know, think of something like, wish I'd do a cover or something, John I'm Only Dancing. You know, you got that open string kind of thing. And I like that. But if you're doing certain size clubs, it's hard enough, but once the drums and the band and the bass and the guitar are going and everybody wants to be a little bit louder than they need to be, it's hard enough to get the volume of the acoustic up without it feeding back.
Yes.
So it's, you know, unless you're doing a nice kind of show in a theatre and there's a bigger stage, so it's a bit of a battle. So I then moved to electric, and I've got a really nice custom shop Les Paul Junior, which is the only one in the world because they put a special neck on it for me. It normally comes with a 50s neck, which is like a baseball bat, and I like this doing a 60s neck. So I've got a custom shop one, and the closest thing to it is Billy from Green Day put out one.
Oh yeah.
Which is the same as my one. It's not a custom shop one. The same as my one, but it's got Billy. What's his name? Billy
Joe Armstrong.
It's got Billy Joe Armstrong written on it. Well, I'm not going to do that. Why would I play? He hasn't got one that says Glenn Matlock on it. So anyway, I got this one. Now I got my one before his one come out. But anyway, that's nice. But then I found about a year ago up the Kilburn Road, second-hand shop, a Hofner President, which I'm a big fan of Tommy Steele, who was, people always overlook him. He was the first person to have a rock and roll hit in England. Yeah. Rock with a Caveman. Then there's great pictures of him playing one, which I'm sure David Bowie saw, because David Bowie looks exactly like Tommy Steele when he was young. Right. You should check it out. He really, really does. I showed it to Earl. He went, fuck me, that's David. Anyway, he's got his Hofner President. I got it for that. I thought it'd be good for photo sessions. I think. Yeah. It's fantastic. It sounds great. You crank it right up. It's really, really kind of light to carry. It's got F-holes in it, so it's loud enough if you're sitting at home to work something out. If you've got a solid guitar, you can't hear it, you know. Yeah. You got to plug it in. Don't have to do that. And it's great. And I only kind of bought it for a laugh. It was a little treat. Yeah. And it's great. So there you go. So they're my two guitars, bass-wise. I had a really nice 61 Precision that got pinched, and it was beautiful. And that's kind of put me off playing bass. I've never seen another one as good as that. Yeah. I was annoyed because I've got two kids. I've still got the Rickenbacker, and I had the 61 Precision that I used all around the world with the pistols and with Biggie. And it's gone, and that was going to be my family heirloom for my two boys, one each, and it's spoilt that now. So I got a nice custom shop tobacco Sunburst Precision, like 62 copy. It was like James Jameson kind of thing. Yeah. You know, if we played on all the Tamla stuff. And I this is quite funny. I've got a white Precision. I was lucky enough. I did something in Sweden not long after my guitar had been nicked, and there's a bloke called Bjorn, believe it or not, who was organising. In fact, he organised this wedding. I played at this wedding party at the Grand Hotel in Stockholm with Nick Guy. He's been in the Helicopters, and he's got a band called Imperial State Electric, good. Dragon, who was in the Helicopters, and Phil from Motorhead, right, and me. And we played at a wedding party, and it was funny. And then they just got married, and they came back, you know, in the big ballroom, and they insisted I did God Save the Queen. They just got married, and I'm singing to them in the front row, no future. But anyway, I told the bloke about the bass, and he called me up a couple of weeks later. He said, Glenn, I feel really bad for you, and I have been given this bass that I was going to give to somebody else, but I'll give it to you if you want. I said, well, look, it's very kind, but one of the bloke, who was you going to give it to? And he said, well, not many people know this, but I am into electric motor car racing, you know, like the electrical Formula One. Yeah. he said, and the guy I do it with is very big it is, and I was going to give the bass to him, but he doesn't really know, so I'll give it to you. I said, well, who was it? He said, the King of Sweden. So I got this bass that was going to go to King of Sweden, but he ain't going to miss it, and I do use it, you know. Yeah. And then I've been at home, I've been doing quite a few online sessions, and then my lads borrow my basses because they're both in band. Yes. So whatever one's the closest to hand, I use.
You use, yeah.
They're pretty much the same, yeah.
And you've been, I saw you in a photo call for a streaming bill that an MP's doing. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, I don't understand all the ins and outs of it, but it is obviously to better musicians, you know, rights and remuneration for putting out music, you know, be it Spotify or what have you. I mean, I'm not heavily into that because there's so little money in it, you know, and especially if you don't sell that many records or that many downloads, the royalty rates are so slender, it's hardly worth bothering with, you know. But also, I think the bill kind of addresses the problem that people have put out stuff years ago where record companies have automatically put it up for streaming and just kind of assume the rights without people knowing. It allows the musicians and the artists to be accounted to. You know, it doesn't necessarily change the split, but at least people who weren't being paid on their historical stuff can now demand that they are. Yeah. So that's that. You know, and anything that kind of furthers the cause of things is better. But I've become mates with this guy, Kevin Brennan, who's the Labour MP for Cardiff West. He's one of the few people who've been standing up in Parliament, you know, talking about the negative effects of Brexit on touring for musicians and artists and anybody, you know, in the whole Brexit thing for a touring band is a complete fuck up. Yeah. And anybody who's voted for it, I think they're a cunt, basically. Really. Yeah. It's fucked up a whole slew of society. Anyway, he's been standing up for that, but he's also a pretty good folk musician. And in lockdown, he made an album. And I said, well, look, and he'd got me in to Parliament a few times. It is a funny story. I went to Theresa May's meaningful vote thing that Kevin Brennan got me into. And I've been to a couple of things upstairs when you're in the Strangers Gallery. Yeah. But this time he got me and Chris Musto downstairs in the back of the chamber because there's the speaker's chair. Yeah. Right in front of you. On the left is the government, on the right is the opposition. And at the back, which you never see on the TV, there's a couple of pews, right, of visitors. Quite a privilege to be there, actually on the ground floor. And then there's all these ushers who show you in and out, and they kind of got like penguin suits on with a, you know, white waistcoat and there's some big medallion. And anyway, so Burko shouts up, they have meaningful vote, shouts out lock, and I never knew what that meant, right? Yeah. As soon as he shouts out lock, the usher comes in and says, oh, ladies and gentlemen, he said, you've probably heard the speaker shout lock. He said, that means because people have to file out to vote. He said, you can leave now if you want, but you won't be able to come back because it will interfere with the voting process. Do you want to leave? No, we're all set here. So we're sitting there and the MPs are filing out. This Tory MP, really beautiful suit, comes walking over to go out of one door to vote. He sees me and he immediately has to come and he goes, fuck me, there's a Sex Pistol. I'm like, oh. Then everybody looks around. I'm like, oh man. Anyway, because I became mates with a guy, he's a nice bloke. He sings good. He used to gig and stuff, and he's also in there's a House of Commons band. I found that. Dig this. It's quite a clever name actually. They're called MP4 because there's 4 of them. But they're MPs, you know, instead of MP3, MP4, and they do they play once a year there and do covers. But anyway, he was doing that thing, and I said, well, look, you know, if you're making it, I'll put some bass in it for you. Which I did at home, sent it over, and it was mixed. And then he had an album down the 100 Club, a couple of weeks ago. So we rehearsed a little bit for that, and I played with that, and it was quite. I enjoyed doing things like that because it's another string to your bow. It was some good musicians, you know, some quite well respected, some more folky musicians. There was a fiddle player and a mandolin player and a good drummer who was in some, not Elbow, but it was a name like that. And I had to learn the songs, you know, and read out the charts that I did, and it was interesting, you know.
I mean,
and he held the room very well because he used to learn. And there were people at the bar, of course, to get them away from the bar, he goes, order, order. It was funny.
Fair play. You're currently on tour at the moment, doing some shows. So tell us a little bit about that and how it's been going so far.
It's been going all right. I've done about 3 or 4 acoustic shows. We didn't have a London show put in, so I did a band show at the 100 Club because I'd actually had a gig left over from before lockdown in Belgium that we had to rehearse for to do as a band. Didn't realise, and I got this thinking goth festival, everybody's head to toe in black, and I'm like, I was the only bloke with a white shirt on. Anyway, because we'd rehearsed for that, we thought we might as well do another gig. It didn't have a London show, so it's easy for me to just call up the bloke at the 100 Club. But we had a pretty full house there, considering it's, you know, the tail end of COVID, if it is the tail end of COVID. Cross your fingers.
Yeah.
And then I've got some acoustic dates. So I'm up tomorrow. I'm up in Liverpool at the Zanzibar, Blackpool, Huddersfield, Edinburgh, Dundee, Edinburgh, and then I've got one in Southampton, one in Stafford, and that's about it for this year. But that's enough.
Yeah.
For now, but I enjoy doing my acoustic shows. It's kind of scary walking on just you and a guitar. I see it as being one down from a stand-up comedian, and to do it, it puts hairs on your chest. Really, you know, it's a good reason to not do it. You know, you have to get on with it.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've become all right at doing it. I'm kind of proud of it. The backup I've got is that I think I got some good songs. You know, I got confidence in return, and it always goes down well. It's just a bit of a funny time out there at the moment because my age group, they may be a bit more wary of COVID, and it's, you know, the crowds are fantastic. They're healthy, but they're not rammed.
Yeah,
it'd be good if they were rammed.
I'm sure all
that's going to take me to the end of the year, and then but I tell you what, when I do my acoustic show, I can't see much point in going out and being miserable and all shoegazing and stuff. I spent a lot of time at Butlins when I was a kid watching the Redcoat show. So I get everybody involved, and if they don't get involved in singing along and clapping and stuff, I want to know why. So I shame everybody ceaselessly and getting involved. And if they don't, I pick on them mercilessly. But we have a laugh, it's funny.
Yeah, excellent. So, album good to go and stuff like that. Where would you point them to get?
Well, I would point them to Amazon, I suppose, really. I'm a big fan of it. I've got a website, glenmatlock.co.uk. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. The thing is, you put something on there and it gets superseded with stuff. Even the sex-pistols.net site, you know, Phil Singleton's thing, you probably find it there. But Amazon, Spotify, Apple iTunes, not all of the stuff, but a lot of it's on there. But come the new year, I'm going to address all that. And so all those older albums you was holding up earlier, I think they're going to be reissued in some shape or form. I mean, what annoys me is after all I've done over the years, when you go into a record shop, although there's not so many, there's not a Glen Matlock rack, and there's all these other bands I've never heard of. Perhaps there will be in the future. You know, and there's nothing worse when you're a musician, is that you make a record that's pretty good, and people, I can't get it. I don't even know you had one out. If people don't like it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But when they've never heard about it, and now they find out, oh, you put that record out 2 years ago, I've only just found it. It's a bit kind of galling, really. You know?
Yeah.
I don't mind if nobody likes my stuff, fair enough. I do mind if they kind of dish you, which some people do. Oh, you're not Johnny Rotten. I don't want to fucking be Johnny Rotten.
Yeah.
John's Johnny Rotten. Oh, it's not like the Sex Pistols. Well, the Sex Pistols are the Sex Pistols. I don't want to be like the Sex Pistols. It's 45 years ago. There's an element of in it. You know, I'm no schmuck or schmo that has not learned anything in all his life. I've got lots to sing about, you know, through the life that I've led. I think I got a particularly kind of off the wall way of looking at things in my lyrics. But I can make a point. And on the new album, there's some pretty good songs at where we're at now, but they're not po-faced. They're sort of piss-taking things and great players on it. It's worthwhile checking out. You don't have to like it. It's not disco, it's not bebop jazz, and it's not out and out punk rock, but it's got elements of all that in it, and I'm proud of it. So do me a favor. Do me a favor. Don't do me a favor. Do yourself a favor and check it out, folks.
Yep, definitely. There will be a link in the description down below to your website and where they can get that from. I will put a couple of tracks spliced into this video so people can take a listen. But finally, any words of advice for any budding songwriters or players that you'd like to impart on people?
Yeah, get out of my way. I'm not finished yet. No, I just think, you know, all you can really do is concentrate on what you're doing. You've got to take the rough with the smooth. I was fortunate. We supposedly had overnight success with the Sex Pistols, but we didn't. You know, when we were starting out, me and Steve lived in this above the rehearsal room in Denmark Street in London, which, yes, it was Tin Pan Alley. We didn't have a pot pissing. We were starving. But we just saw it through and came up with something. Now, not everybody can be in that position. All you can do is give it a good go and not get distracted too much. You know, the modern world, though, is different, you know, with online streaming, as we was talking about earlier on, and the internet. And in a way, it's kind of a level playing field. But the more I know about it, the more complicated it is. My kids are doing quite well on that, particularly my older boy. He's in a band called Wargasm, and they're doing all right.
Oh yeah, so I remember.
You know, and it's
I remember a band that they had before.
Yeah, dead, but the singer left and it fucked them up, and they've had to reconsider what they're doing. Anyway, they're getting somewhere now, both of them in different sort of levels, but they're getting there. I don't want to go about them too much because they're men, but you know, they're of a generation where they've learned to play the online game a little bit more, you know, and they tapped into that. I kind of try and do it, but fall between two stools a little bit. And I don't think my generation, although they know how Facebook works, they got no idea about TikTok, neither have I, or whatever the next big thing is, you know. So you're kind of up against that, really. But anybody, if you're going to do something, do it, put all your heart and do it as well and as proper as you can do. You don't always win. It's always going to be up and down. Just stick with it, you know.
Excellent.
That's what I've done. Here I am, getting on. Wouldn't know how to do a proper job if you handed one to me on a plate. But on the other hand, to be a musician, you know, I talked to Clem Burt, he's a great drummer, good mate. He plays with anybody and everybody going, you know, of a reasonable standard. But he says, yeah, I've done well in Blondie and stuff, but all I ever wanted to do was to be a working musician. And we're both in our 60s now, and we've achieved that. But, you know, it's up and down, up and down. And the game is to try and level out. And another thing I say is that not everybody, but a lot of people can have one hit or two hits back then. But as you get older, you really appreciate people like the Stones and Bowie, he's not with us, and even Elton John, you know. His heart's in the right place politically, I think. Don't like his music. But to be able to sustain a career like that over that whole period of time, it's quite an achievement, you know. So hats off to him, really.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Okay, well, thanks very much for coming on the show. It's been
I've enjoyed talking to you. I always enjoy talking about myself, Johnny, and I particularly enjoy talking about myself to you today.
Thanks very much. Okay, Glenn. So all the best with the new album that's coming out and everything that you're doing. And yeah, just keep on keeping on, mate. All right.
Well, I would tell you the name of the new album, but I haven't thought of it yet. So
yeah.
there you go.
I believe years ago, before you put out On Something, you said at the Wembley Music Fair, I've got a new album coming out, and the title, we haven't thought of it yet, but I think I'm going to call it Five Guys Going to Tesco's.
Oh, I said that?
Yeah, so I think maybe you should call it that.
Maybe, I don't know. I might call it SOS. You asked me what SOS stands for.
What does SOS stand for?
Same old shit.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
But it's not. It's same old shit with a twist. But there you go.
Brilliant stuff.
All right.
Okay. Cheers, Glenn. Thanks very much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking.
Cheers.
Good luck.